bring in
Well, this
huge
might be a quick
crowds.
meeting
So,
then.
I mean,
Well, I guess
unless
we don't have anything
today, it
that's,
must
we're
be
recording voting.
successful and a family-friendly thing.
But we can't approve minutes
People come from
though.
out of town.
I heard these other stories.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioners, it's 5:30 by my estimate here, so we're going to go ahead and start the commission meeting, and we obviously do not have a quorum. We knew there were a few people missing, but we'll continue with the business at hand as if everyone were here, so we'll just make a note of who. The first item on our agenda tonight is reviewing the agenda, so I'll turn this over to Jeremy to give us a...
So tonight we have a couple of introductions. We've got, well, I'm not going to introduce them, but we have a new commissioner today, and we've also got the animal welfare unit supervisor here. There's a couple of other, there's a couple of policy reviews that we're going to be going over. One is going to be the civil disturbance policy 801 that was in your packet. And that's a new draft that Sergeant Lowen has put together for us. And then also we will be reviewing the body camera grant as Assistant Chief Durr is going to share a little bit about that with us.
Just like 2 minutes.
So that's what we have for tonight. Just so everybody is aware, there is ice cream, so please feel free to help yourself. And thank you.
Thank you. And at this point, I would like to take a minute to introduce our new addition to the commission. It makes me very pleased to introduce to you tonight Mr. Scott Nowicki. He served as a business owner in the city council, a member and a military veteran. He has a background in law enforcement. Additionally, Scott is a member of the budget committee, which is very interesting from our perspective here. And he will allow a voice for budgeting for what he may hear at our commission meetings. He looks forward to serving our community, and especially with issues concerning veterans. She is one, of course. So Scott, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Anything to say? Right ahead.
It's an honor, and I really appreciate your support at the council meeting, and I really look forward to getting to know each and every one of you and contributing to make Eugene a better community. So thank you.
Very well said. Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome. At this time, we're moving into the public comments section of our meeting, and I do not have any requests to speak, so I guess I won't need that. And we'll move on into introduction of our animal welfare supervisor, Molly Manette. Won't you come up and join us, Molly?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So as you're walking up, just so everybody knows, Molly's got 7 years of animal welfare experience and background animal vet clinics, zoo, and animal shelter with that, and some management experience, I think 4 years. Right? So with that, I'll let Molly tell us a little bit more about herself.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been an honor and a privilege to join the city of Eugene and be able to do work in the animal welfare department. As I was introduced by the group, I just recently moved to Eugene, relocated after living several years in Seattle, but I am from Oregon, so happy to return. I have done a variety of years in animal welfare in different settings, and also done program development and management working with veterans experiencing homelessness. So that's a little bit about myself. I'm very excited to be here and to be working with the city.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
Can you just maybe give us a little reminder how many folks work with you in this part of our police division?
Yeah, absolutely. We have 2 full-time animal welfare officers that cover shifts 7 days a week. And they've been with the city now since the program started in 2012, and before that we're with the county. And then we do have a volunteer that works to do our licensing program and classifying potentially dangerous dogs. So my role will be supporting them in the community. I'll be responding to some calls and taking some things off of their shoulders, as well as promoting licensing, doing some media campaigning, I will also be running our Facebook, things like that, working on budgets and updating the animal welfare code for the city of Eugene. So a variety of tasks, and ready to have things thrown at me.
And this may be an odd question. So the city of Eugene expanded backyard farming ordinance last year, and so people can have goats. Do you guys have any jurisdiction over people's goats?
No, we
I
don't.
didn't
That would be, city compliance. We'll respond if there's injured or neglected, but no, in terms of having 8 chickens versus 6 chickens, that'll be city compliance.
Okay.
Thank you, Claire.
But if the goat's attacking somebody,
Yes, yes, then we will come out with our
means it's really
trailer.
hungry.
Yeah. Then we'll respond. I've heard there's been some llama issues that
Oh.
we've responded to in the
Oh, boy.
past, so. yes.
Thanks for saying hi.
Thank you for having me.
how long have you been in town?
I have been with the position now for a little over a month, and been in Eugene since March.
Nice.
Yes. I'm loving it.
And you're gonna be putting your management tasks here together pretty soon because we have somebody retiring in your unit too.
Yes, yes,
Oh.
good point. Yes, we're in the midst of hiring someone, so the position posting closes tomorrow, and I'll be working with Lieutenant Mason to do supplementary questions and then scheduling phone interviews. So we hope to have the whole process, including background check, done by early fall, and not have any time where we're without that second officer. So.
And you should be prepared for people to ask you why we don't license cats. Just so you know.
All right.
We'll come up.
So have your
I heard-
answer ready.
I heard it's an option. We don't
You can, right,
require
but we don't require it.
Yes, for all those thousands of feral cats that have no home. So, all right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
move into commissioner comments and responses now. Just to get things going, I was able to attend council session last month with Tamara Miller, our outgoing vice chair, and she was able to do her part by giving the previous year's accomplishments. And then we told them what we're going to do for 2015 and into 2016. So we gave a good report. There was some good feedback, especially from our friends on council, Claire and Mike, who are also commissioners. And we didn't have any issues at all come up, really.
Yeah.
Everything seemed to go very smoothly, and I think they like our plan, and they like where we're going. So I was real happy to have that turn out well. And again, we were notified about 4 commissioners not being able to make it tonight. It is vacation season and country fair.
Hey,
and
you're
such
not at the
things.
fair.
So, we'll go through our agenda anyway and continue. Going around the table, who would like to go next?
I guess I'll go ahead and go.
Okay.
Not a lot, but I did want to mention the fireworks. They thought it was a good decision to at least shut down that part of especially after Civic Stadium burn, which was another thing I was going to bring up too. It was too bad that happened. I mean, it's been there a long time, but I'm sure it was just a tinderbox ready to go, and it probably didn't take much for it to happen. Unfortunately, it's probably going to hurt 4 kids' lives for a while, which is really too bad. I was really hoping it was accidental, but or it just happened because there was so much heat, but unfortunately that's not the case. Speaking on the fireworks, it was, even our neighborhood usually has a lot of fireworks, and we weren't in the banned area. And some of them are illegal, which is no problem for us. We don't care. We just wanted to make sure we're home, especially this time because of all the heat. But we had almost nothing, and I don't know if it was just because of the heat or if people were paying more attention because the fire or what had happened. But we had almost none, or maybe the kids are just getting older and they just they kind of outgrown it a little bit. So, and the last point I want to make was it seems like Springfield is becoming the murder capital of the world. I don't know. It seems like almost every day you open up the paper and there's another one on there. So I was kind of not glad to see it was Springfield, but I was glad to see it was Springfield rather than Eugene. Let's put it that way, if it had to happen. But do you guys help them at all when there's a lot of? Is there any cross help when there's a lot of something like that going on?
With the There's sometimes that our detectives work with theirs, I guess with the latest technology that we have with that scanner, the Faro scanner. I think they request us to do the crime scene. So we use those on fatality accidents and things like that, but I know they've requested that on a couple, so.
And it just seems like there's so much, I mean, just all of a sudden, I mean, we go out of town for a day and we come back and actually we were out of town in North Bend, helping out there, and we went to breakfast and they're on the cover of Register Guard. I think on Saturday was another one. We're going, God, another. And so we're just kind of amazing. They're all different and seem like a lot of strange circumstances going on. So hopefully it won't spread this way. Thank you. Oh, and welcome, Scott. I'm sorry. We shook hands. Welcome to the group.
Thank you.
I don't have any comments, except I'm happy that the 90-degree weather has finally broken. And actually, assuming it works out right, we're supposed to have a storm that's going to happen while we're here, and it's going to be nice afterwards, so I can bike home and not get drenched.
Thank you, Joe.
I don't have any comments.
Okay, thank you.
Well, just responding to Commissioner Walker's comments about the presentation at the council, that it was great, and thank you for being there. And I think it's one of the few times Councilor Taylor didn't mention that she wants to disband the police commission, so that's always a positive thing. She mentions that on occasion.
Okay.
That she thinks now that we have a CRB, we don't need the police commission. So I think that bodes well, that she's seeing some value in what you guys are doing, or what we all are doing here. And I apologize that I wasn't able to come to the last meeting, so I didn't get to, in person, thank Commissioner Miller and Manning, thank you, for their great work on this commission. We had 2 long-term commissioners who termed out, and I did send Tamara an email, and I still need to send James one, so to thank them both for their work. I'm glad to hear from folks that they felt like the fireworks ban seemed to help. I'm sure EPD was terribly busy nonetheless over the night. I happened, because of having a very fearful dog, I actually leave my neighborhood on the 4th of July and try to go somewhere where there's going to be fewer fireworks, so I wasn't even home to kind of gauge if it was better. And in many cases, it's adults, not kids, who are doing the worst of it. But I did hear from a friend who lives in a part of town where fireworks were not banned, that her neighbor, who would do an illegal fireworks display every year so that she worried for the safety of her house, did not do his big fireworks display this year because he apparently got cited last year, and it made a good impression on him. So, and then I also wanted to recommend, since you brought up Civic Stadium, Chief Groves, Fire Chief Groves had, I thought, a really thoughtful and excellent piece today, guest op-ed about the Civic Stadium fire, and just talking a little bit about how they handled it, and some recollections about the whole situation that I thought was really thoughtful and well said, and really grateful to the work of the fire department and EPD around that terrible incident, because it could definitely have been much worse in terms of the ultimate consequences. So
winds were high. Yes,
it was really dramatic. Hot fire. So the fact that it didn't spread, no one was injured, I think just we should all be grateful to the good work of our first responders.
Scott?
Again, I'm just thankful to be here and looking forward to working with you.
Chief, you usually get to take Chief Kearns' spot here, so he usually has a round at the table too.
One of the things that we did with the fireworks this year, we looked at the calls for service and those people that were potential offenders last year, and we had officers go out there, knock beforehand, say, hey, we had complaints on you last year. So I think that was effective. So something we'll look doing, taking a crime prevention role. Instead of waiting for them to do it again, we can make a gentle nudge. And I'm like you, I went to the coast, I took my mom to the coast and everything, and I think everybody that did not shoot fireworks here was over there. I've never seen anything like that. We were in Pacific City, and they were just, I mean, just the illegal fireworks that were going off. I'm like, okay, we need to get out of here. So, and the last thing I have is Carter Hawley is returning as a staff member for the Police Commission effective September 1st of this year.
Oh, well, we'll lose Jeremy, we
Well,
just
yeah.
starting to get to know him.
What happened to Jeremy?
Jeremy came from crime analysis. And Jeremy's had a ball. Jeremy's absolutely loved working with you guys. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I loved it, so.
So if I might jump in too and say, because I have to work very closely with Jeremy on a lot of these issues and agenda planning and everything, and that's just been a very smooth transition. I was worried, and I told Carter that. She knows. I said, we're going to lose you one day. I know we are, but she's been such a wonderful help, and so it's good news for us as well with her experience. It bodes well for all of us. But I did have such a great transition because Jeremy is so skilled at making sure details are done and everything is done so well. He's so conscientious about that, and I really appreciate the work we've done. I'm sorry to lose you, and hope you well in the new position, back to your old position.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so moving along again, we have reviewing the minutes. We still don't, we're lacking one member for a quorum, so we won't approve it. But are there any corrections to the minutes? Okay, we're going to move on to the next item then, if there's no objection, and we'll start dealing with the policy on civil disturbances. So Matt, could you join us at the table, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So at the last meeting, y'all asked if we'd come back. We brought you our old general order, and it was one that, like a lot of our general orders, was pretty long overdue for review. And so you guys asked if we would come back and draft a policy that is familiar to you guys in both the flow and the formatting and stuff like that. And so what I did was I looked around on some of the resources that I have for policy research, and at that time when I looked, I found a lot of real small agency policies, you know, like Aberdeen, South Dakota, which I'm sure is a really nice town, but I'm not confident that they have a lot of experience with like significant crowd control issues. And that's not a knock on them, and that's me making an assumption. But I couldn't find any large or mid-sized agencies that maybe are college towns that may have gone through some of these real-life rehearsals with this stuff and could provide maybe a more comprehensive policy. So the International Association of Chiefs of Police, they have a model policy, and I pilfered pretty heavily from that. If you married, these wouldn't marry up because I've cut things out of order to the way I think it makes sense. And I've applied some of our business culture to this policy, but this is largely borrowed from their model policy, which is the design of IACP. They want you to use their material. It's vetted by a bunch of lawyers and on a national level. So you can never apply it as a cookie cutter approach, but this was a good place to start, and I think it's a good place for your analysis to begin because it's broad, but it's a little more contemporary than what we had in terms of our general order. It goes into some detail about the use of force and this general management of crowds, some of the A through J bulletized points. It's a good review for supervisor or watch, sergeant or watch commander, lieutenant, to review this, because these are those, I sound like a broken record, the low frequency, high liability events that our policy does us best if we use this as like a policy like this would be best as like a review tool, like a watch commander, just run his or her sergeants through this once a quarter, take it out, brief your patrol teams with it. So I'm interested to hear comments. If you are interested, and I can provide next time, one of the oversights that I made was, I think there was a request to have some other agency policies. And when I went in and did my research, it had already slipped my mind to provide you with other agency policies. And I don't know if I made that assumption because the ones I was looking at didn't seem, cutting edge or large enough to where it would maybe make sense to share them with you. But as I went in just today, to go back to the same page I went to review some other agency policies, Denver Police and Portland Police Bureau popped up into this search that I did a couple weeks ago with the same criteria. So if, depending upon how long the policy gets discussed, I can provide these to Jeremy, and they would probably serve as a pretty good resource for you in terms of your comparison. I, to be perfectly honest with you, haven't had a chance to really digest both of these yet and see where there's likely a couple of things we can cull from these, particularly Portland Police Bureaus. They're under a consent decree right now for their policy predates the consent decree, so that new policy, yes.
Was their consent decree having to do with crowd
No,
control? Okay.
no, but they'll likely they'll look at any kind of use of force policy, so I'm assuming that at some point there may be an update to this, maybe not, but this is their 2009 version, so, but I'll have those and I'll make those available to Mr. Cleverseas if you guys would like. So I'll be hush up now and let y'all.
Okay, we'll go around the table as our tradition and find out what everybody wants to see changed or have questions, any issues with that. Yeah. Jim, yeah, please.
Thanks, Bob.
Bill?
Payback for the dude.
Yeah.
Whenever you can.
Yeah, just wait.
Jump in.
Under 404.4, on the first page.
Yes.
It says government. What government?
Well,
Well, that's what I don't,
Yeah.
I don't know, is it city, state,
well, and I mean,
general-
yeah, that's a generalization. I mean, that's vernacular for when we're discussing like First and 14th Amendment rights.
So I've never seen the word government in any of the policies we've looked at,
Yeah.
so this is, it kind of.
Yeah. If you could generalize, things I could do to restrict the freedom of speech or restrict the time, place, and manner restrictions I can put on your free speech. As a we don't say the police department does that. We professional papers will refer to it as just government puts those restrictions on people, not the police department or not the city of Eugene or.
It's one of
it's
those
just a
words that
generalization.
you guys understand.
I think so.
What it means in reading.
Yeah.
I also had some questions on page 2. The A through J items.
Yes, sir.
One of the things that I didn't notice anyway was where will leaving occur is one of the questions to ask. And I don't know if it kind of seemed important to me, but I don't know, maybe it wasn't. Maybe you already assumed where the event's going to occur. And then under F, I didn't know what sleeping dragons, tripods, or U-locks really were, so I was wondering if you could explain.
Sure, yeah. Protest devices are, it's our term for a device that's used by static protesters to confound the efforts of police to remove them from an area. They can be as simple as like a U-shaped bike lock or chains to a door like at a bank. And they can grow as complicated as cement 55-gallon drums with PVC pipe buried inside of them with U-bolts inside where people either handcuff or carabiner themselves inside, so you can't get to they're basically arrested inside of this huge, weighty device. A sleeping dragon is simply just a PVC pipe where one or more persons can reach into the pipe and carabiner or just grip themselves to a bolt. And there are various levels of complexity. I've been to a class where we learn how to defeat things all the way up to those huge 55-gallon drums or these giant tripods that people will get themselves into. And they're just designed to basically slow the removal of people from that protest.
That makes sense. Because when I was initially reading this, I was reading this as devices that the police use to break up a protest. So that's why I was. But now that I've seen the other side of reading it, now it makes a little more sense. Then on page 3, down at the bottom, under 404.6.3.
Yes, sir.
Under D.
Yes, sir.
One of the things I really liked in there was there are multiple warnings given, or that you always try to give multiple warnings. I thought that was a good piece to have in there rather than just the warning and then go in and break it up. But one of the things I thought you might want to include, because it says that there shall be, the second and third warning shall be issued. I thought you might want to include in there right after shall be issued, maybe if circumstances permit.
Yeah, shall's kind of a strong
Yeah, it is.
word for
And
something that
if
will
something
reserve.
happens, you only give one warning and then, all hell breaks loose and you have to go in quick without that second or third warning. I hate to have a policy or procedure hold you up or cause you problems later because you didn't follow policy or procedure. And then on the last page, basically the last line under D, you have shall be completed and will be prepared. That you probably should delete one of those two from the way I'm reading it.
Yeah, make that sentence make sense.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Other than that, I thought it was, a very well-written policy, and I thought it had pretty much covered everything. I'm sure others will have other ideas too, but I thought it was really well done. Thanks, Matt.
Okay, you're welcome, sir.
I'm done. I don't know if anybody else is there. Anybody else?
I just had a question is, would this sort of apply to, how we had all those homeless camps?
The sleeps?
Yeah, and I know that there was at some point the police were sent in to disperse them, make them move from Franklin Boulevard.
Right.
Is this the sort of, would that be this kind of situation that we're looking at here? Or?
Yeah, it could be. And this is more of, I think the meat and potatoes of this is a civil disturbance that is maybe not even necessarily pre-planned. That's an incident where we kind of have time on our side and we can stop and make it more of a city problem like we did, and we kind of activated the incident command structure and did those things. This would be more of a large crowd, maybe in response to removing some of those protesters. A large crowd would gather that becomes unruly and meets the, then you've got the definition of what a civil disturbance is, and we're dealing with that. They can either be kind of spontaneous events or they can be planned ahead. So, you're welcome.
Claire?
I don't know if this is helpful into the kind of awkward phrasing that Jim pointed out about the government may
Right.
impose, but I don't know if just adding agencies in the language, if that doesn't change the meaning. I don't think it does.
I wouldn't think so, but
Yeah.
Like making government agencies or just,
Yeah, government agencies
Yeah.
may impose reasonable restrictions,
That makes-
and that's just that's Supreme Court precedent, that you can have time, place, and manner, reasonable restrictions on First Amendment activity, which basically is you're not keeping people from going about their
their yeah.
normal business, blocking entry and that kind of thing. I don't see any big red flags in here. I think this covers a lot of things. One small, could be a big concern if it was realized, is on page 4, it's section 404.6.3D, but it's on page 4, about specific crowd dispersal tactics. And I don't necessarily want to get into tactical issues here, but, this happened down in the famous case in Jacksonville where they told the crowd to disperse and then blocked the direction that they wanted them to go. So when I see crowd encirclement in a framing that's to disperse people, that raises a concern that we're actually going to trap people in a situation where they're unable to disperse and follow the order. So I think I'm not necessarily suggesting language change, but just...
yeah, maybe we could be more specific, because part of our training curriculum for chemical agents is that we've got to have an egress route for anybody who would be exposed to chemical agents. We could probably elaborate more on crowd encirclement. Would be more of
under certain conditions.
Right, or where you're trying to shepherd movement in a direction away from a certain area, like we've got a hospital or a sensitive site. We'll encircle, do our best to get between them and that location. But yeah, we can. I can certainly clarify.
I think that would be good. And then, this is also kind of a in real life thing of giving the warnings that can, as I'm sure you all know, can be really challenging in terms of people in a large raucous crowd hearing those orders and actually understanding what's being articulated. So, the second and third warning is pretty important, because probably the people on the edges who are going to hear the first one and maybe tell the rest of the people who are more inside, depending on how large the crowd is, it can be very difficult for people to actually hear what's coming through the megaphone or the broadcast system.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Not that I've been in the middle of one of those.
I would doubt that.
Any more changes, Joe?
Yeah, a couple things. This one is a significant one for me, because when I was an undergraduate, there were a lot of police that were brought onto the MIT campus, and they trashed the place. So, and I had trying to leave the area, I had a problem leaving, in that I was surrounded by a group, probably 6 to 8 officers in riot gear, who weren't going to let me go, and were poking me in the back. Every time I would turn, they'd poke me in the back and that kind of thing, until finally some sergeant on the side said, "Why don't you just let them go home?" But that was definitely a life-threatening situation. So I have a lot of concerns for this kind of a situation. One of the things in terms of reading it and while you're going through is the chief of police in Seattle during the World Trade Organization protests wrote a book that may have some, a lot of thoughts about it. Basically he summarized it by saying at the time he was defending territory and not protecting people, and that he essentially needed a change in perspective. So maybe looking through that, his book might give you some ideas about this kind of thing. One of the things, I guess, under definitions is you might include something for civil disobedience, in the sense that some protests, people will choose to do that, and there should be some methodology or consideration for those situations in which the protesters choose to engage in that. So, because it's kind of just between a demonstration and civil disturbance, and the disturbance, it gets, out of line, but in specifically where people are, coming to be arrested for violating something, in a Gandhian or Martin Luther King situation, you probably don't want to have that slide into the civil disturbance area. In other words, create a middle ground for that kind of activity. Overall, I didn't think it was bad. Good first cut.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You don't know the name of that book off the top of your head?
I
do you?
don't, but I'd be happy to email you a reference.
Thanks.
I can Google it.
Yeah, that'd probably solve
Even
that.
quicker, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, sounds like we've reached the end of any asks to fix problems or change anything. So what we'll do is, Matt, if you, we'll bring it back at our September meeting, we can go ahead and take a look at the changes you've made there. If it meets with the approval of the commissioners, we'll get that done.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you kindly.
You're welcome. We're moving too fast. I never thought I'd say that at a commission. We are way ahead. I don't know if you all want to take a break this early, or maybe we could move into the chief's report and then take a break after that. Would that be pleasing to the commissioners to amend the agenda to allow us to move to
Yes.
chief's
Yeah,
presentation?
seconded.
We have a second. A motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So we're moving into the chief's presentation. The chief is not here, we know that, but Chief Durr is here. So
Yes.
if you have any questions, we will let the report speak for itself, and you all have that in front of you. Go ahead.
May I just say something? Thank you, Chief Durr, for coming. When we found out that Chief Kearns was not going to be able to make it, which was that we didn't have a whole lot of notice, he stepped in. I just asked him, hey, would you be willing? Absolutely. He wanted to be here. So just wanted to make sure. But he knew. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
My pleasure. I want to attend more on my own too, and just be here and listen, so that's one of my goals. Going down, the chief and I actually, so I get to comment on the Perfect conference. Quite interesting with what's going on in law enforcement throughout the country, and listening to various chiefs and the hot topics. So he and I both were at the, and for those that don't know, PERF is Police Executive Research Forum. That's one of the main research vehicles there are for law enforcement. I think there were 405 different people there, a majority of chiefs and assistant chiefs, and hearing the topics and the winds of change that are going on in law enforcement with everything that's happened. So there were a lot of takeaways from that. So I know the chief's been going around meeting with local veteran groups and organizations, and I had actually gone out with a group of people to Boise, looking at Boise's veteran program, and looking how we can intervene before the crisis happens. And Boise has a program that's been up and running, I want to say since 2011, and they're working to make it a little bit better. So, Chiefs, I know attended several discussions about Measure 91. We've been getting more and more guidance, so we're actually working. Matt leave? Oh, there he is. I was tasking Matt earlier with changes that we have to make to our own policies and accommodate, and with the legislation moving so quickly or so late, it didn't give us a lot of time, so we're having to play catch up along with that. Then you see in the notes, Chiefs did some various ride-alongs.
Can I ask a question
Yep.
about Measure 91? Do you know what kind of progress is being made for some kind of DUI test?
Well, we have, I know we just had 4 people go through the drug recognition courts, and I don't even know, did they put it at 0.5 nanograms? I didn't see that latest, do you know?
I saw that ORS, it was using marijuana while driving, and it's a really kind of a vaguely worded statute that I think the city council is going to adopt from the ORS that was passed, but nobody's assigned a or like a
level.
Yeah.
Like a blood alcohol, the
trace
equivalent
amount in your
of a
blood
blood
means you're,
alcohol level.
you know,
That's what I'd heard too, is that nothing's been established yet.
So even in Colorado, they haven't,
No, they have there, we just have not as a
Oh, okay.
state. So I know Colorado's 0.5 nanograms, so I was looking
Okay.
for us to do something.
so there is maybe a model for us to.
Right, and we've been sending our officers to what we call DRE school, and they can recognize the effects of, drugs, so that's what we're, and there's a big push to send a lot of officers to those schools with what's going on. We just hired 8 new law enforcement officers that will be starting the academy, I think in October. And we're going through another process, and the current posting, I think, closes this Friday.
Well, how many more officers are you hiring?
Excuse me?
How many more officers are you hiring?
Right now, we're down about, with the hires that we have, is another 8 officers is what we need. But then there's also anticipated retirements that are forthcoming next year. And when we hire somebody, it literally is not a year, it takes a year for them to hit the street. These officers that we just hired, we anticipate that they'll be done with their field training academy in June of 2016. So we really got to forecast ahead. And we have, we're working on the ECU with some temporary employees, 2 additional ones that'll be out there for 2 years to help us out. And I know the ECU progress has been doing well in dwindling some of the backlog on evidence. So. So going into that, I attended the prayer vigil too for the chief there, so that went pretty well. I don't think anybody else got that tonight. Any questions regards to that?
Any questions?
Going too fast.
Well, that'd be
After
good work
the
for coming tonight.
June
Get you out
20th.
here early.
After June 2016, and they're able to go out on the road, the 8 officers.
Right.
What does that look like? How many months is it before do they go solo at that point, or are they?
Yeah, at that point, they're solo. And then they're still on probation. So, unfortunately, the reality is that we also have attrition through that whole process where, they get done with the academy, so they've got to pass several hurdles. And then they have to pass the FTO program. And we lose a couple people in between there. So we also realize that in part of the hiring process, so there's that rate. The hiring process does a good job, but then it takes the rest of them to get there. So,
Thanks.
not a problem. So,
Is that posted on your website, that job posting?
yeah, we post that job, and I know we work with HR, and we actually push nationally, and they have different areas that they go to, like policeofficer.com and some other areas. I went down with HR about 2 weeks ago, and I can't remember, but they have a whole specified thing of what they show has been positive, and they track some of those things. So it's been effective. I know we're also taking a look at laterals, maybe posting a specific lateral process for police officers. We're just evaluating that now because that will take a lot less time, and it's a lot less, well, it could be more risky. Sometimes you could pick up some other agency's problem, but then at the same time, you wouldn't have to put them through the academy, and you could shorten the FTO program too. So.
Lucky Lil's lottery.
Is that
Hopefully nobody asked me anything on that because I don't have any information on that one.
That was the robbery they had up there, they had a
Yeah.
robbery up there. It was a pretty serious takeover robbery, so that
Yeah,
was
the
a young, I think it was a young kid, as I recall, too, a young man was involved, and he made an arrest. That's good.
Does anybody have anything particular that they saw they want us to jump ahead to? Or a couple
I've got a couple questions.
The crime, on the reports, the crime reports? Yeah. go
Okay.
ahead.
Well, I live in the Santa Clara area. I think that's your jurisdiction too, I think, isn't it? And I was wondering, you've got a couple boxes, I think, for that area, at least one in the report here. Yeah, the back-to-back pages, the 4-week citywide and the 1-week citywide.
Right.
And you have Bs and Ts in yellow boxes in the Santa Clara area. I was wondering what those meant.
You know what, I would have to get back to you on that. I remember sitting on it. What that is, that a lot of those boxes they're pulling county data in, because that's just not all.
Oh.
So
That would
we're
make
trying,
sense.
so we're trying to pull, their data into ours so we get a better look at the overall crime mapping. And I can ask for the next time to have some translation in there so we have an understanding of
I
that.
wondered if Bs meant burglary and Ts meant theft.
I'm assuming the same thing. I sat on the back end of a DLP and was listening to some of it on the thing, but I forgot what they were because we moved through it so pretty quickly.
It sure doesn't make us look all that clean out there as it normally does, but I know it's all a checkerboard out there.
Well, that's been one of our focuses on looking at crime, you know, being able to look at Springfield, because, you know, criminals don't have boundaries in the way they commit crime. So we want to analyze all the crime that's out there, because what's affecting us is affecting the sheriff's office out there.
Yeah.
I think I remember asking the chief about this last year, about the Santa Clara area, because of the
Oh,
same
yeah,
concerns.
yeah.
And I believe he told me that the county crimes at the time were not being included in the police in Eugene.
Yeah, they weren't.
So we don't know what's happening right next door. He says that's still,
Well, our analysts are working with they've been working on that relationship. Jeremy, you looking at, do you know any more about that, or?
I've been a little out of the loop for a little while to see exactly what they're doing.
By what I know, our analysts have been, and that's been a long-term thing, is to get that data. And so finally, we finally have gotten it. And I don't know how old it is, so that those are questions that I have for myself. You know, is this within the same time period, reportable time period, or is there more lag times?
It kind of looks like it is, based on them. Well,
okay.
Tim? If I keep, okay. Couple pages further down, under officer activity, I was wondering what you kind of have a line for cahoots, downtown, and patrol. I was wondering, and they're kind of, squiggly lines. Yeah, right, you got them there. I was wondering what, like the numbers 88 to 122 for the green line, and 77 to 40, what those, or kind of what those lines represent. Is that number of hours, people on duty, or what?
Those are the number of activity. So if you look at the right-hand side, and this is a new graph that.
Okay, now I understand what you're.
Yeah, so if you look up here, you see the number of incidents by offense, and then on the right-hand side, it gives you by the team. The black and white, well, my black and white's it's a little bit harder. And this is a new slide that they just crime analysts threw out there this week. So we spent some time digesting it and trying to. And so the bottoms are all by the weeks, like you'll see week 20, week 21, week 22.
Like the green line that says, that goes from 88, and that's kind of squiggles up.
Right.
To 122, what does that line really represent?
So that would be 88, so that particular one you would look at and say that shows you patrol activity, and that's your trend line, the green line, up there to 122.
Okay.
So you see over time, patrol has increased their activity. The red line is the downtown area, so you see how they went up and then they came down, and then the blue one is cahoots, just to show trend lines for officer activity.
Okay.
And then the other boxes are the top boxes, like residential burglaries that we traditionally have looked at.
It looks like a lot of it's linked to downtown. The higher the downtown on the red line, when it's higher up, there's less crime, but then when it drops down, like in the 2015.21, when it dropped down, crime looks like went way up.
Yeah, and I would, I wouldn't want to speculate at this point because we're just getting
Just
used to
started,
it.
but that's
Yeah.
what it looks, that's definitely what it looks like.
Yeah, so it shows you, I mean, the thing you could say is also look at, you could formulate saying, well, look at the overall patrol and when they're really up high and crime's down, but I would hate that. But there's also studies out there showing that necessarily officer activity doesn't always decrease crime, so. But the one thing that we have noticed overall is that crime is trending down for some reason. Talking to
Yeah, I was looking here, yeah, that's what it shows on the
Yeah.
year-to-year comparisons in your information here.
Yeah.
It shows crimes, in most cases, bike thefts, I think, were the ones that were
Yeah.
up, but everything else seems to mostly be trending down. One last question I had for you. On the, right after the looking ahead, it's actually going to be further forward. Oh, the other way, sorry, yeah, I know. Further, it's this one. There we go.
Gotcha.
Is there some, obviously it looks like there's some really hot spots there as far as like between like week 12 to week 17. It looks like there's a lot of, those are kind of the heavy weeks. I assume those are weeks across of the 0 to 23.
Those are right. So the top line up there is your time. So 00 is it's military time. It's 12
Okay,
o'clock.
so it's the 24-hour clock. Okay,
Yeah.
I was thinking that was week periods of time. Okay.
Yeah. So what?
Now I understand it better.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like a heat map to show
Got
us.
it. That makes sense, perfect. Okay, and that makes sense where those are, okay. Okay, good, I'm good, thank you.
Anybody else? Question? Issues they want to bring up? Calls for service. Anybody else read about the number of calls for service on the fireworks issue and whether it was actually almost the same number of calls, but as they said, it's hard to tell because they added the ordinance to make it illegal for any fireworks. So that could have increased the number of calls for service. In fact, I thought Lieutenant Bellman explained that very well in the article.
What's interesting is I was in the communication center on Monday talking to him about this. We were looking at some call times, and the other thing that's throw things off too is that there's a lot of repeat calls. I think the public expectation was that we would be there within a matter of minutes. And so they were telling me stories about how somebody called back multiple times. So that also throws off the statistics too. So.
Okay. Yeah, that's an issue I've seen on our neighborhood, friendly neighborhood forum that we have. It's been mentioned that the police would be called and they'd respond, but as soon as they left, they would start in again. So, it's not, you're not going to be able to post a police officer in every block in every neighborhood to try to stop it. You just have to rely on people to do the right thing.
How were the calls in the band area? Were there a lot of calls, people maybe didn't hear that there was a fireworks ban in those areas, or did people pretty much understand that and not?
We're actually working on a graph, so I don't have the
Oh, so you don't have that,
locations.
okay.
Yeah,
I thought it might be too soon, but I didn't know if you might anecdotally have a feeling.
Yeah, what I asked crime analysis was to give me a graph, and what we want to look at is days leading up to July 4th, and we're going to color code it. Then we're going to look at July 4th and then July 5th, and take a look at that mapping and seeing what that looks like. And then at the same time, we look see what the restricted area and what that looked like also. So they're working on that. They're pulling the. She told me to be patient.
You mean they don't have anything else to do?
Oh, and I was thanking
They have
Claire
other
for
things.
council's action. I mentioned that I live in the band area in South Eugene, and it was unbelievably quiet compared to what normally it just doesn't stop. It's on and on till 3 in the morning. I've had to go off in the middle of the night. It's just horrendous. But this year, it's been really quiet. Other than the major fireworks displays, we didn't have a lot.
Yeah. My dog thanks you too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too, yeah.
My dog would have thanked me if I'd been able to ban them in the whole city.
Yeah.
Okay, so anybody else have any questions on that? If not, we'll go ahead and take a break because there's ice cream melting in the cooler there. So we'll take a 10-minute break and be back here at 25 of and finish up our agenda. Thank you.
I see you guys being too easy.
I know.
Thank you
We don't
for
have
your
Jesse here.
comment on that civil disobedience, because that's sort of what I was thinking when I was thinking about
I'm
the
just being nosy.
comments. I didn't really, hadn't thought it through, so you got to exactly what I was
They came to.
concerned on, you know?
All in all, for example, with the Occupy thing, I thought the police
get more
behaved
busy
themselves
when
pretty
we have more
well.
Well, I think they do here, so
There were a few things here and there, but for the most part, I thought overall it was quiet.
it's really lucky. I mean, it's
Observe.
it's
It's quiet.
so much worse.
Nothing. I mean,
I hear stories.
You know, it's pure attitude. You know, it's a different set of people with a different set of attitudes.
Yeah, yeah. It's nice to be working with you.
Jim, what are you doing? You're not on the...
But we don't have a quorum, so we're gonna get to see it again.
Oh, I guess so, huh?
We don't need
What do you do there?
So how's your summer going?
I was operations manager for, actually I started in audit. Actually, for 5 years, and I was operations manager for about 7.
Remember that every
Now I'm into compliance. Just moved into their compliance person left, went to Oregon State. So now I was responsible. So I'm still kind of transitioning because I still have a lot of operations duties and a lot of things going on there that I'm trying to offload. And we're also going through a whole process of looking for a card processor for our ATM debit and credit cards. So I'm pretty heavily involved in that. But once that's done, and get some of my other operations things off my plate, then I can be full compliance. So,
Mostly got.
I need to get to quickly because we have examiners coming
I
in.
was gonna say, your job is secure for quite some time. The way things are.
Yeah. A lot of regulations on financial institutions, so.
Between 6 and 8 regulators in our building. Our headquarters in Bloomington.
Yeah, well, we get both the state and the federal regulators are coming in. We also have our external accountants that are coming in.
Busy.
Yeah, it's always fun. And what do you do?
It's the fourth one for the ACL.
Call sales leader State Farm, so I can district.
I'm not. Does it go there? Yeah, yeah. Right.
Remember the first couple of times when I first interacted with you, it sort of seemed like that was very simple.
Yeah. It kind of.
Right.
Speaking of ice cream, that's a theme, so let's start dishes. So what prompted this?
Yeah. People were very
What prompted this?
upset and feeling like.
It was July and last
and
week
wood,
was
so my house is made of wood.
I thought that if we have another one of those.
So,
when I was
because I
planning this, we
tend
had
towards, like, oh, they're just fireworks, and I don't
But I've been to
like
two
sound,
and
because they comes at my dog.
If it's not a hit, it's not a hit.
Fireworks is real. I mean, I grew up in.
Gonna be a hit.
I'd say dig in.
Enjoy
you guys
mid-
want.
swing.
I got
Huge, terrible fire the week before 4th of July one year.
There's some over here.
Peter's house burned down, and I was at the house.
Let's make it happen.
Band.
Actually, do we need cups or do we have?
And this was like a whole
Hot topic right now.
people, and they were just like, no, we're not gonna face this danger again. I'm sure there was a.
Okay.
In a way, it has. It's kind of stagnated.
What color do you want?
That was right in the middle of my childhood.
I can see that.
Okay, we don't have to worry about my house burning down every year. I like that.
What the outcome was.
So I think people here, you know, when we went down to Medford, so we went to Crater Lake for 4th of July, we drove into Medford at 11:30. There were so many fireworks going off. It was crazy. We were kind of able to insulate our dog.
That was it.
You can see on the horizon line.
So I didn't know what happened.
The coast. It's like other cities in Oregon are just.
Hold back. So what happens to those person?
That's
Then they
what,
become
they get
a,
like 1 year less
Sort of settled out.
on their card, because everybody else has a 2 year, right? So they get 1 year less, but by the time they take the card back, I think your 2 years will be over.
Yeah.
You know, I have one more clothes because I figured they had this way.
a little bit of everywhere else. So it's quite a bit. The State Farm has it slowly
It's
down.
always, you can always get nervous if you got those like.
They don't have, they don't have
Is that right?
Yeah.
And that little air conditioner.
Heidi's great. I was just talking to her today.
But the,
Yeah, they're good.
but the
Yeah.
room's already out.
So I actually,
And then when I came back, this
You know, what I'll
always
do
wanted
is,
to
if
go
I get a chance, I'll go over there in the morning.
and I
Just
couldn't
open the
find a law
doors
school
and
that
blow
would
the
nights
cool air.
here in Oregon,
We've
so.
got really bright.
Pretty brutally.
I'll bet, and you've got
Who were on,
electronic equipment, lights on feet.
Well, for the
so you
most-
can't really,
Well, we did a show last night. It got pretty hot by the end of that. But,
and then they had.
it wasn't really hot yesterday.
no, it wasn't bad. But the,
Yeah.
I mean, now the LED lights are coming down. And there's these 50 watt LEDs. Most likely.
Okay.
So the thing about that by that, and then it has a reflector on it. And I'm actually, they're getting pretty cheap. So I'm actually thinking about buying some.
No, actually, Jeremy's idea.
You know, because they're usually made at work like
Come back and I'll be here.
and take the chip
Oh,
out
really?
So during that,
and mount it, and we have all these
really kind of came to a steady state.
floodlight type.
It was.
Well, there's some that have lenses that can focus, others are just floodlights.
Dying.
But, you know, they're 1,000-watt bulbs.
Interactive.
And, you know, I can drop that down to a 30 or a 50 watt and get the same amount of light out of it. And since it's all video cameras, you can white balance them.
I wasn't out of that.
So the thing is,
Oh, really?
I'm-
Wow.
that may solve the heating problem in the,
And,
and, you know, like I say, it's coming to cheap, so it might just be $400 or $500.
Definitely.
Oh, my God.
That's just a way to outrageous.
I'm not sure.
It's called the Chief Division Medical Operations Center. So there on the ground is when I coordinated.
Well, yeah.
We were actually working.
But, I mean, it was bad for, there was a couple of weeks, it was just obnoxious. And the last few days, it's
Hands down, if you go in and out. Immunization. Because they had a lot of problems with water in their environment area.
That's good.
Oh, really?
I'm happy.
So it's kind of like, they're always going to the attorneys next door. It's like, I can't wait to this. It's like, everybody wants this.
Oh,
Yeah, I missed the beginning. Did anyone?
When he does the desserts at Elmhart,
Deb was here.
That was
She was here first. But then, I think she was because there weren't very many, maybe
2000.
she was waiting for more people to be here. I don't know. I don't know. Because there weren't- you know, we don't have any people. We were waiting for her.
how do they make ice cream out of that?
Maybe she's got, maybe the person that she was going after didn't show up.
People were saying,
She went after me.
Sorry, well, you don't.
what are you guys doing? It's still gotta happen. Slow down.
Really?
Because I said, oh,
He does that now, you
got
So-
turns him over to.
My daughter was
Yeah,
born
you
right
were
before I
saying
left for Bosnia for 7 months.
She's in that,
Took a batch.
off her meds again.
And then they called him up a week later and said, can we order a dozen?
Just too bad.
I was en route to my next
She's
duty
on.
station.
She's got some good ideas. and
She's all right.
I was in Fort Lewis, Washington.
I'm saying intelligence,
Going back to the
just has a mental.
and my wife died
Take care of
for a second.
I know people
Pregnant,
like
so
that have
they
known
left.
just.
In the spring where I ran, it was gone another year. So
Yep.
I missed 2 years of the first 2 boys' lives, so half of their lives. It was tough, so I said, I came up with that. I think I served that.
Really?
So where is everybody this time?
Well, we had several people call in the new commission.
I was gonna say.
Wildy.
I want to do it
Same thing.
was really busy.
Wildy, he's in Europe,
I haven't, I
so
have
he couldn't make
one.
it.
Well, he started, he
To,
officially
Bill.
started his own business.
Yeah.
He had a charter to come in just for the meeting.
That is,
Conference in Sun River.
Well, I'm carrying the load now for public service. But he did that while he was at Hynix while I stood
And
off.
so I guess the ice levels are very area
My
now.
wife started, she
And
worked for a
either
business.
you're
Somebody
with them or you're
in her
not.
business.
And he's this guy who's really preaching peace and not extremism.
Jesse, I think he was out of town
Get
too.
along.
He does special events, like, he doesn't do full cooking catering, he's
Yeah.
just focused on the
And
sauce.
so
Might be the
you
country
know,
supplement.
you can-
That's what Matt was
Exactly,
saying.
so he's got a wedding that.
I'm not going to.
That's a good
You know, I went once and it just struck me as being just a bigger extended Saturday market.
Mild walk.
Same kind of thing, just walking through with people trying to sell stuff.
We went through,
That's true.
You learn a lot about
Friends with.
swore we weren't coming in here.
Yeah, but this.
There's some good music and generally,
Those people over there.
And then he did bring recycling, Julie Daniels.
You can buy them again.
Unfortunately, they get hurt a lot.
Trades.
Caught in the middle of it.
Yeah, and just.
I think it's different than
That breaks his he used it like right away.
and I mean, a lot of people go there, the ones who sort of work at it, because they stay and they sleep overnight.
So yeah, so right now he's.
So I'm sure that experience is really good.
Things that I have to do finally over the years.
But, you know,
Later in my tour.
as a consumer coming through, didn't do anything.
Get a better understanding of how social we're arranging these tours. You need to go down.
Like I say, some music was
walk
good.
on your own.
They had a little energy and environmental.
But you know, I carry out that kind of zero pops. I
Most of it was just people
go, so it's fun. But
selling art,
our tour guide,
mostly art.
So you guys liking it here?
And, you know, while some of it's interesting,
you live in Bosnia and choose from that you know you'll have a major war.
I'm not a consumer of
Start
art.
with genocide. Yeah, it's been going on for years and years.
I'm not either.
Years.
Right, right.
You know, we're
Saturday
neighbors, but
market.
I know deep down.
Come down, you eat
your
the Afghanistan
great-grandmother murdered my family, so we're just waiting for the time to happen again. It's like,
Then
it's
they have
all
the,
under here.
Yeah, it's like this trust that's
very
cycle that's
coolers.
hard to get out of.
It
And then you
is.
just sit,
Yeah.
you know, watch
Forgive me.
bands for a while, and that's fun.
You think that if you
You know,
wouldn't,
it's a lot of effort to wander
are
around.
equally, you're on such weird.
That's Saturday morning.
Not always, but I mean, you
Yeah.
can't.
Ain't right, a lot of people are outside market.
It's interesting. People are interesting.
Yeah.
To observe.
But I don't know if you're a
Cultures,
moviegoer,
you know, just the whole way.
but the little
Just like the
Pixar,
whole.
Inside Out.
That's not, that's more usually.
Is that the,
West Coast thing. I'm from LA.
Oh,
So like,
well,
when I
LA is
first moved here, I like
A
had to
few years
restrain
ago.
myself.
is that the one where they,
Really
the young come back,
important.
or?
No, no.
California.
Is that,
The story is you're inside the brain of an 11-year-old girl. And she's having a
Why
crisis
don't you
with
like
her
the
family.
What do you want to lines and then we need
Get along.
It's, you know, it's probably worth, there's other things out there, I don't know what you, if you're much of a moviegoer. But,
It's not as simple as, you know, like, it's just Sunnis. You know,
Pixar films are, and this one stands out. It's very, definitely worth seeing.
Okay, everybody wants to go back to the table, we'll finish up. We got one more item on our agenda and we could go home early.
All right.
Okay.
My husband will be so disappointed.
But then my wife goes,
I don't know, he probably had all
Hey, I
this.
got Counselor Clark to do this at the table yesterday, so.
Oh, really?
Get him.
I like seeing that. I'm pleased for that.
So you know you don't have to wear a suit and tie every time you come to this meeting.
Every other time. Thank you.
But we need an offset for Mike.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Let me once
makes you
again
think you're on
thank Jeremy for the great ice cream treat,
Yeah.
Jeremy.
Yes, thank you, Jeremy.
I think you've set the bar very high for Carter's return.
That's right. We're all gonna be looking at it. Where's our ice back?
Where's our ice cream?
Jeremy brought us snacks every time.
ice
On
cream.
here. Okay, so the last thing on our agenda, comments, is the Chief Dirk's report on the body cameras and how the grant is going. So I'll turn it over to you, Chief. Thank you.
Not a problem. So seeing the body cam grant come open through DOJ, it gave us a very small window. No, you're right. Gave us a very small window. If you've ever had a DOJ grant, they're pretty quick. They announce them and then they close them. And so we had a small window to get this done. And, thank goodness that we've already done some work, because I don't think you could, and I don't know what the status of the grant, they won't announce it till October, but if you haven't done some of these steps and processes and started working on this, there's just no way that you could have applied for it or be successful. So we were able to take some of our past efforts, which is kind of surmised here, and reading the grant material and rereading some of the body-worn things, because it really tied it into that body-worn perf study with cops, and so you really had to circle back around. And I think in going through that, and Matt Lowen, he left, but he helped me out, and we started realizing and discussing with him. I think initially we thought we could just adopt and make some amends to the in-car video program, thinking that they were kind of parallel with each other. And then working through the grant program, we realized we're gonna have to develop a whole new policy, because this brings up even though there's similarities, there's a lot of differences with these body-worn cameras. I mean, we're talking, what do we do when we go inside somebody's house and they don't want us to record? There's all these different implications. So I think even though they're a similar device, I think they're different. So we realized we need to develop a body-worn camera video policy, and not just patchwork what we had. So, and then the other part of the grant really stressed the partnerships and getting public input into this, to hearing the concerns. And I know we also talked about that in the previous policy on new emerging technologies too. So Scott Feldman really did a great job. He was kind of tasked with me only being here 3 years. I'm kind of blind to some of the networks and the partnerships in the community. Scott had a strong connection with that, and so he went out and got letters. And he actually wrote a lot of MOUs and solicited the agencies to show supporting letters. And I think it'll go a long way, showing that we have stakeholders such as the NAACP, ACLU. Thanks for the police commissioner for supporting us on this too. And these are what we knew that we know of that are key stakeholders, but there's other stakeholders that might be out there that I'm not aware of, that the police commissioner would be aware of. So that's why I'm asking this letter to assist with the body-worn camera, and also having the people to come in and speak to their concerns to help us develop the policy, just that the commission usually does. So this letter is just a solicitation and kind of give you a guideline, because I know walking into Jeremy was great. I walked into Jeremy's office and I said, hey, I know you guys had this workshop. I've been working on this body camera grant, but this might need to be a priority thing if we get this grant. So what's your timelines? Will this fit in? So we mapped it out. So Jeremy worked with me, and I put the proposal letter together. And we truly want, moving forward, we want to hear the community and have the police commission be that vehicle, because this is where it all happens.
How are you going to store, and what happens to all the data? It just must be just a ton of.
Yeah, it's that's going to be the biggest issue is storage, retention. We've revamped the retention levels already because of our in-car video, and we don't want to go excessive on it. But I think if you ask me, here's what I envisioned, and I just met with the vendor 2 weeks ago that comes in. We get vendors every once in a while that come in and want to talk. I know from talking to Taser and some of the major things, I think what you're going to see is an integrated in-car video, body-worn video system. That when you leave that car, that body-worn video is going to be the mic for the in-car video. Because right now, when you talk to officers, the thing they grapple with is, oh my gosh, you got to stick one more thing on my uniform. That is what they're concerned with. And when they have an in-car video, they have a mic that's attached to their belt, and it connects back into the in-car video system, so it catches the sound. So if you were able to eliminate that with the body-worn that acts as a mic, I think that's whoever develops that first is going to be the winner there. The thing that the body-worn video also says is that when you buy this, it has to have an editing system with it. because that's also the time-consuming thing, is not only storage, but redaction of videos. Getting these videos out to the DA's office or to Muni Court, because the Muni Court has a huge issue, is what are the downstream impacts of this video? It's great that the officers are shooting all this video, but we've got to request all of it. And I get to talking with the DA when we solicit these letters. The DA is like, we have to make sure that the officers list all the videos in the report, because if they don't disclose it, then the case can be thrown out. So there's so many unintended consequences in going down this path that we don't realize that we really have to flesh out before the full implementation.
What do you foresee as how long you'll be holding on to these videos for?
There are various. We have a retention policy that some that are non-events are, I think the shortest we have is 180 days. And in talking with the police auditor's office, we wanted to make sure that somebody that came in to make a complaint about an event that happened, that we would still have that video. So I think that's about the shortest. I mean, a homicide is indefinite forever. So I have to bring in that retention schedule in. And then the other thing is that a lot of people don't realize is, in order to say, hey, this is a homicide or this is this type of event, the officer has to actually input the metadata into it. So it requires a screen or some type of input, which is also, will be part of the evaluation of what system do we go to. Because I don't have any idea what's the future of the system.
Big task.
Well, we'll see. We'll have to evaluate to see what the products are out there. I mean, in a year and a half. I mean, so if we got the grant, it would be in October. We'd be awarded. We'd have 2 years to utilize the money. So again, with our progress that we've done and just the deployment, I think we've created the demand internally within the agency. And talking to all the officers, a lot of agencies are facing pushback from their officers and trying to deploy something like this. We actually have our officers, hey, when are you going to give us body-worn camera? We want them. So we don't have that issue with our organization, which is nice.
Right.
So.
This is the other side of citizens filming police, police filming citizens. So I think
Right.
one issue is forcing the other as much as anything else and driving. And you were not here when we had the policy discussion on this. We did have the policy before us, and we did include, there were issues on there about timing and how long to save video and requests from other people that want to access these, because as you know, they're on YouTube, they're all over YouTube, and you can, go on there and find any police video you want of any situation just about. So one group I know has said they were going to just apply wholesale for all videos that the police carry on their cameras. And then they'll redact and decide what they want to put on YouTube or out on their websites or whatever they want. So it's going to involve a huge amount of redaction by staff, and the cost will not be recouped from what I understand. They can't possibly. It would cost you thousands of dollars in their time to go through that many, and they can't charge that much, so it's not going to get done. But yeah, and what I hear you saying then, Chief, is that you're going to be ending up having to draft a whole new policy now to cover all these issues that came up in the investigation of the grant.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll be seeing them again.
Right.
Okay, that was my point. And Joe, you're next.
Okay. So I guess first question is, how much money did you apply for?
Our agency size, we were limited with what we could ask for was $250,000, and based on the calculations, we asked for $249,000, which we would have to.
Okay,
Go for the extra dollar.
You didn't do 99?
$250,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
Where's the 99 you figure?
When was it due? Is it already due, or have you sent it?
Oh, yeah, it had a June 16th deadline, I think
Okay,
it was.
so it's already-
It was we had 5 weeks when they opened it up and closed it down.
Okay, good.
Now, how many video cameras does that get you?
That would equip the whole agency.
Wow.
Yeah, they give you, and basically the way the grant's worded is you get $1,500 per camera. Now, if you can buy the camera for $399, you didn't have to break it down and say, we spent all $1,500. You have to buy a $1,500 camera. No, if you buy a camera, you get $1,500, and then if you want to use that for storage or whatever, however you use that, grant money is used for that.
Okay. So, yeah, I just lost the question. So go on with the discussion. I'll jump back in later.
That's
Okay,
okay.
Claire? Yeah.
I just was looking through the packet, and it is an impressive array of letters that Lieutenant Bellman and the rest of your crew was able to gather, and I just really appreciate reaching out to NAMI and Lila in particular, and then, of course, the Human Rights Commission and the NAACP. So that I think speaks well of getting this project off to a good footing in terms of letting folks out there know, here's what our hope is, that we've applied for this grant, and them getting some, paperwork, a draft letter that they, read in prior conversation. And so as we do our piece, assuming we get the grant, we're already a few steps ahead, I think, in terms of community outreach and knowledge about why would we do this and what are we doing this for. So, nice work.
And there were a couple that came in after the deadline.
Oh.
Like LULAC got theirs in, so it wasn't included in the packet, but we're still including that as part of that, because that's.
So there was even further outreach done.
Yeah, than what was here, yeah.
Yeah.
And we had some people that just didn't respond back, but, that's okay. I mean, but we showed DOJ that we're serious about involving our community.
Yeah.
And key stakeholders. We're all stakeholders, really.
Yeah.
So I remembered what the issue was. I guess the state legislature passed something regarding policy for body-worn videos. Are you familiar with that, and what's the status on that?
I have that on my desk as one of the things to read through. I got a snippet from, I don't.
Do you remember what the bill number was? Because I sort of heard that it was happening, but I haven't really followed it at all, and I'd like to, at this point, since it's coming up again, I'd like to read it.
I can get that to Jeremy, because I'd be,
Yeah,
I
that'd
don't
be
know off the
fabulous.
top of my head, and I have to do my own analysis to line up what it would do. I don't think, well, I'll leave it at that. Well, I got to do more research. I just did a blush read on it.
Yeah,
so.
because there's issues here about, for example, officers reviewing the video, which is going to have a huge impact on available hours. So in other words, you're either going to have to hire more police or pay overtime or do something in order to give them the opportunity to review this stuff. So the question is, you've got a policy that, one possibility is to say nobody reviews any of it until it's called for, either in a court case or a complaint, or in some ways it's pulled up. Otherwise, it never gets looked at. So there's those kinds of considerations, but have you looked at this point at its impact? Let's say somebody, the average officer shoots an hour video a day. What's the impact of them reviewing that in order to write their reports? Have you gone through to figure out what that would look like?
Well, those are things that we'll have to examine. And no, I mean, kind of the viewpoint that I would think I would take is, I'd want the officers to be able to view, if they don't have clear recollection of an incident, to be able to use that, because it's like any other memorization tool that we have, because we all lose our memory as time goes, our memorization of the event goes, so I think it's only fair. I mean, I don't think every event they record on camera would need to be done that, but we'll have to look at the impact. But we can do a study of those cameras that are out there and take a look at those officers and say, hey, how much time do you spend? So we can start taking a look at what we currently have, and use that. So I think that's a great measurement tool to mark down is, how are we measuring, what are these other things that we can measure, so we truly understand what the impact will be.
Yeah.
And we know from in-car video, because our officers already can view those events too, but body-worn, there'll be many more frequent videos too.
Yeah. Yeah, because an hour a day would, then just to review the hour's worth and maybe watch it a couple times, you're probably talking 2 to 3 hours worth of somebody reviewing their video that they shot in that day in order to write their reports. So it could be a huge drain.
Oh, thanks for that. I'll make sure we take a look at that.
Yeah.
So assuming you do get the grant, and it would start, when do you think, October?
The grant would be awarded, I don't know how much, I forget what they would award it, and I think they would say effective, I would imagine January. Maybe it would be effective immediately. There was also some discussion about credit purchase for people that have moved forward on it too, so.
And do you have, is there a reporting mechanism at the end where you report back, say, hey, these are what we've come up with, these are the results of?
Yeah, there's measurable objectives that you have to report back, and you have to report them back quarterly to DOJ. So there's some requirements that we're going to have to meet once we implement. But there's also a timeline. If you ever built the DOJ timeline, they're not easy to do and easy to understand how exactly they want it. So, but we put together this timeline for identification, RFP process, and things like that, then deployment. But then we have to report out on where we're at on that, and then once we actually do deploy, there's certain measurables, like some of the key measures that we said is that we anticipate that there would be a decrease in the use of force, because one of the things that the cameras have shown is it changes people's behaviors. Not only changes officer behaviors, but it also changes the other parties' behaviors too. So between change of behaviors of both parties, that the event could reduce use of force. It could reduce complaints. Maybe changes the officers' behaviors. I mean, we frequently get complaints about the way officers spoke to me and stuff like that. So those are different measurables that I know that were in the grant.
And then at the end of the grant process, do you get to keep the equipment? Does that become part of your equipment then?
That would be the part. So if we spend $1,500 a camera times however many officers, whatever the video equipment, the storage, and all that stuff, we would be able to retain that.
Pretty good deal.
Yeah.
How many?
Your tax dollars at work.
How many? Do you know what the total dollar amount that the DOJ has out there for this? Obviously, you're going for 250,000 of it.
Yeah,
249.
I forgot what the total is. I know there were, for our category of agencies, there were only six. There will be only 16 agencies awarded throughout the U.S. for medium-sized agencies. So then they scaled it for large agencies and then smaller agencies.
Wow.
So, Claire?
Are you finished?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. Because I knew like DOJ had done a press release about that they were putting these grants out there, and I hadn't really paid attention to the details. So that strikes me as pretty competitive. And I wonder, since I might have this wrong, but when the police auditor came and spoke to us recently, it looked like our use of force was pretty low, for our size of our population and the amount of arrests that are affected. So we might look like we don't need those body cams, relative to some other community that has a higher use of force rate already. So that might put us at a disadvantage for this grant.
Well, the good thing, we didn't have to put our use of force rates in.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right. But you still calculated a possible reduction that might happen with the body cams.
Yeah, it was more of in the paragraph, and if I could produce the actual grant if everybody's curious to see it, but it was more of a narrative of anticipated outcomes.
So they weren't asking you to provide kind of a statistical benchmarking?
No, the benchmark that I used, and I can't remember if I actually put the number of use of force incidents, but I put in the number of complaints year by year, the citizen complaints.
I anticipate it would help a lot with that.
Yeah.
So that would make Leah's job easier if you had
Exactly.
your complaints.
Yeah, no, it takes a burden off of other parts of our system.
So I had myself in the queue, but you guys were doing so well, I thought I'd
She
step
works
back
for
a
the
minute.
police auditor's
I
office.
remember asking Joe, I asked the chief about that in the meeting, and that was one of his major concerns, what you brought up, was the fact that time is going to be involved in an officer writing an accurate report, making sure that he doesn't put anything in the report that later won't come back in court to bite him when he finds out, oh, wait, no, that's not really what happened. So they want to make sure it's an accurate report. They're going to have to go through it and see that what they did. I know one of the things they tell officers when they're involved in a shooting, they get what they call tunnel vision, and they only see directly in front of them. They don't realize what else is going on around them. So the camera hopefully will help some of that, and they'll be able to write it into the report like it actually happened, not what they think they saw. There was an officer right here who came to the Citizen Police Academy and told us about a shooting he was involved in. He remembers the instructor telling him how many officers thought they fired 3 shots and they fired 5 or whatever. So he remembers thinking how he was counting the shots he was firing. And he swore he only fired 3 times. And it turned out he fired 5. So it was 2 more that he, in his mind, he would have sworn an oath that he fired 3 times. So this is what happens. And so accuracy is important, not just for that, but for also your own safety and ability to continue doing your job, to know you're doing it the right way. And the other thing I remember, I don't remember about the body-worn videos, but I remember the legislature passed a law on the filming of police, stating that in and of itself cannot be a crime, you know, interfering with the police, just filming without other circumstances. But thank you for bringing it up. I'd like to see what comes out of that one, that if they passed it.
Yeah. Am I next? Can I be next?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, to sort of add to that, I had several conversations with the chief on this particular topic. One of the things that he was concerned about was that the level of detail in reports would go up as people, in other words, they'd be spending more time writing a more detailed report. And I remember making the suggestion at the time that with the video, it should go in the opposite direction. In other words, instead of writing a huge amount of detail, you could simply say, I encountered this person and we discussed these basic things, or, you know, whatever the event was. I mean, if it's an encounter versus, you know, something more dramatic happens, that you could actually reduce, you know, if the approach was taken, you could reduce the amount of report writing, because you do have a video backup of that event when it comes to doing it. So maybe there is in fact an opportunity by using this to recover some officer time. So that again is something I would look into, because you can change it since the backup already exists. You know, the same with minutes. If the video camera's here, we write less detailed minutes.
And I think the other thing is that we have to train our officers, because we also can't lose that officer's perception of what happened at the time. So, Bob, like your example, I remember 3. Well, it's fine to put that in the report, but now the camera goes back and say, but after viewing the camera, there's obviously 5, because those perceptions of the officer are an important detail in there. So I think that's one of the things that we have to train our way through and say it's okay to narrate your perception as you saw the event at the time, and then the video provides a different angle of the situation. And the other things we have to remember too as society is that that's only one point of perception. And so the theory about body-worn cameras out the field, the more officers that have the camera, the more angles of the situation you have in there, you have a more accurate picture of the totality of the situation. And doing the studies, in-car video only captures 10% of the situation. So it's probably more than anybody wanted to know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The other question I had was, does the department, they don't have cameras on the tasers, do they? Like the taser cam at the end of the taser?
I believe all the tasers are equipped with cameras,
I think so. I thought so too.
but they come on in a 30-second loop. So as you activate the
Right.
taser, it starts. At least the old models did.
I do not believe we have the taser cams.
No.
I don't know if we experiment with those, but I know we ordered tasers and they didn't have the cameras on them. So they might have.
Stand corrected.
Yeah, because we haven't been I have not seen a video
Okay.
here of a taser cam since I've been here.
The panel back there is supporting him, so.
Yeah, no, I'm sure he's correct. He's closer to the, but I thought they were kind of standard on the
That's what I
equipment.
They
thought, too.
have, they have a, yeah, they have the capability of it, but I think with body worn, you're gonna see it, because it only gives a,
Yeah,
and it gives such a, the problem with that is it just gives such a, it only when you activate the taser, so it only gets you that, it doesn't give you all that, the event that happened.
no, it almost seemed more like a gimmick than a useful
You
piece
know,
of equipment.
or was a prelude to the body cameras.
Right.
You know.
Yes, if we have those, it'd be overkill. The in-car video and the body cam and the
And
taser
taser
cam,
cam.
you might have too much going on. So. Okay, does anybody have anything else, or are we?
Just real quick, what's your normal, and you may not know this, the answer to this, what's your retention policy on the written reports? Because if you go with, like what Joe was saying, you can shorten the reports and then refer to the video, but if you're keeping your written reports for a year, 2 years, whatever, you kind of need to keep the video for that same amount of time if you're using those reports to refer to it. So how long do you normally keep the written reports?
Our reports are
Yeah, forever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's the other side of that coin, is if you insert it, now you have to retain video forever. But, you know, who knows what video technology,
Yeah.
I know Joe's got a specialist in this, but.
He's got his head spinning right now, I think.
You start compressing video and you can.
Yeah, you can do
You can
pretty
do,
small.
so I mean, I remember growing up, we used to think a cell phone, Dick Tracy, and would be
Mm-hmm.
absolutely absurd. Look at us today, you know, so I mean, who knows in 4
Or the
years.
Get Smart shoe phone.
But I just wanted to say, so I'm not totally wrong, the tasers that we were using at some point did have a video, because when I was working for the ACLU, I had to watch the taser video of that poor Chinese student who was tased. So that was a taser cam.
That's how you
So-
thought, that's how you knew they.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I also studied the whole issue a lot. So I guess maybe once that was early in having tasers, so maybe once we went with more, we bought ones that didn't have the cameras. They're
And I-
probably cheaper.
And I don't know the historical perspective. Sergeant Long, do you know the movement away from, do you have any recollection of that, or?
No, I remember we tried fielding one shortly after the incident involving the exchange student in the hotel tangled up with the bed sheets. But I remember it being bulky, and we didn't ever have a deployment that I'm aware of where we could view the taser cam. It was a big thing down at the bottom, and it didn't allow for a cartridge reload either.
Yeah.
On the X-26. I could talk more to Officer Sewell or Sergeant Maloney, who would maybe have more of the particulars. But I remember us taking a look at it, but then thinking that it's not for us, because all we were really interested in was what we can download now is the deployment information. You know, we can still identify what taser was fired when, how long, how many cycles, things like that, the exact date, timestamp. I think we just felt like at the time we didn't have enough deployments necessitating a taser cam.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
And I do, I'll say one more thing.
Sure.
I know we're competing against Springfield. Springfield put it forward.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and U of O
Would they
put
be
it.
small?
Yeah, and U of O, actually, they fall in the same category you do, we do, and then U of O also put in forward, but they fall into the small agency category, so we're not directly competing against them.
Interesting.
Okay, if we're done, we move into closing comments, and since there's less commissioners, there'll be less comments tonight. Feel free to take longer if you'd like,
Oh, no. Don't say that.
or not, yeah. Who would like to start?
Well, I guess I'll start. Thank you for attending in the chief's absence, and especially it sounds like at the last minute, so thank you. It kind of sounds like you might have a little bit of a cold too, or a little hay fever or something.
I don't, yeah, I started developing analogies this year, year 3 in Eugene.
Well, yeah, you're in Eugene. If you can get them anywhere, this is where you'll get them. So, well, thanks for you coming, and as usual, thank you for Jessica. And not that we had a lot of public today, but thank you for coming, and our our panel, who stuck around for the whole meeting and gave feedback, and thank you, and thank you, everybody. Welcome again, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, no quorum, but interesting discussion. And I guess we're not going to be here next month, so it's going to, it's like, this is all heating up, but we're not even going to have a policy that we can look at until September. So it's, well, then again, the question is, do you get the grant? So, because this is a big deal, so. But everybody, have a great summer vacation, and see you in September. Wasn't there a song like that?
Yeah. Oh, in the movie.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you guys have said it all, but I kind of hope that Springfield gets that grant. I'm sorry to say. No offense.
You think they need it
I'm
more?
kind of rooting for Springfield, yeah, because I think you guys do a great job, and Springfield might benefit more from those cameras. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Well, thanks, Assistant Chief Juror, for being here. It's nice to have you in the chief seat. And thank you, Jeremy, for all of your great work over, has it been a year? Is that?
No.
It wasn't a year.
It's been about 7 months.
Yeah.
Now. I started in December.
Yeah.
No.
Seems like you just got here, so thanks for your excellent work, and it's been great to have you be part of the commission, and I know you'll be still working for the department behind the scenes. We won't see you as much, but thanks for joining us for a while. It was great to have you here.
First meeting, it was fantastic hearing all the different points of view and the questions and kind of seeing how the flow of the meeting goes. I'm excited to be a part of it. And I guess unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we get a month off, so maybe then I'll get to relearn again with the bigger crowds. So thank you.
This was a nice, gentle introduction.
Thank you, Scott.
Oh, I think I've had my minutes.
Well, Joe, thanks for reminding us. That was on my little pad here to remind us that we didn't have to come next month, so everybody wouldn't show up. Not that they would, but that's what it looks like tonight, but, Anyway, I wanted to let everybody know, George Brody, those of you who didn't know, did not get reappointed to the Citizen Review Board, which then takes him out of the Police Commission lineup, and so they are having their meeting, I think next week, if I remember right, and they're going to appoint a liaison. So by the time we come back in September, we'll have another person. So we'll have 3 new people on the commission. Raquel, you're moving up the ranks.
That's right, I'm a
Seniority
veteran by now.
as we speak. Yeah, I want to thank Jeremy too for everything that he has done for us, and how well he's helped me get through these the intricacies of the department and how to get the stuff to us so we can review it and talk about it and make the suggestions to the administration. And you'll be in crime analysis, and hopefully maybe you can come back and explain the chief's reports to us. When you get in there, maybe he can appoint you to do that. I'll echo what Joe said too. Have a great summer the rest of the month and enjoy. Hopefully the weather will, come down a little bit. It's been unbelievably crazy this last 2 weeks, so I hope we have a good weather, and we'll see you guys in the fall.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
It's not even going to be close to dark by the time we get home.
And this gal here is being filmed by that woman outside. Oh, this person's kind of
Good
weird.
guy.
So then you went inside.
Well, here you step in the shade.
And
At least okay.
Mark Harris coming out there said, oh, hi, Mark, Raquel.
Office, but I feel like a few.
The woman just, oh, you're Raquel. You're the stupidest member of the committee. I said,
Next to me.
thank you.